Admiral James Walker stood at the massive viewport of Earth Command Station, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass. Below him, Earth turned slowly, its blue oceans now tinted gray with ash, its green continents scarred with black, craters where cities had once stood. Yet despite these wounds, his planet lived. More importantly, his planet had won. Admiral, the broadcast system is ready. Walker turned to face the young officer. Lieutenant Davis looked tired. They all did. No one had slept much during the 3 months of the invasion, and even less during the final week when humanity's desperate counterattack had driven the aliens back. How many of their communication systems did we capture intact? Walker asked. 12. Major relay stations, sir. Our techs say that's enough to reach about 60% of their known territory. Walker nodded. It will have to do. The rest will hear it from their friends. He straightened his uniform jacket. Is Dr. Reed here yet? As if summoned by his words, the door to the observation deck slid open. Dr. Emily Reed entered, carrying a data tablet. Her right arm was in a sling, a souvenir from the Battle of New Delhi, where she had been collecting alien technology while under heavy fire. Doctor, Walker greeted her. What have we learned about our unwelcome visitors? Reed swiped across her tablet with her good hand. Images of various alien species appeared, along with star maps and ship designs. They call themselves the Stellar Concordat, 17 different species in total with a loose central government. They've been expanding for about 300 years. She looked up at Walker. We weren't their first victims, just their latest. Walker frowned. And their reason for attacking us? Standard procedure according to their military logs. They find developing worlds, overwhelm them with superior technology, and add them to the Concordat, sometimes as slaves, sometimes as low-status members. Reed's mouth formed a grim line. They expected us to surrender within days. Walker turned back to the viewport, staring at Earth. Their mistake. It had been their mistake indeed. The Concordat had arrived with ships that dwarfed humanity's largest vessels. Their weapons had cut through Earth's defenses like paper. Their soldiers had landed in major cities across the globe. But they had not counted on human adaptability. They had not expected Earth's militaries to set aside their differences and unite within hours of the first attack. They had not anticipated how quickly human scientists would reverse engineer captured alien weapons. And most of all, they had not understood that humans, when backed into a corner, would fight with a savagery that shocked even veteran Concordat commanders. The tide had turned 3 weeks into the invasion when Russian and American special forces had captured an intact alien destroyer over the ruins of Tokyo. Within days, Earth scientists had cracked its propulsion and weapon systems. Within 2 weeks, those same weapons had been mass-produced in underground factories around the world. The aliens had expected to face spears. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy who took their own weapons and improved them. The broadcast team is ready, sir, Lieutenant Davis said, interrupting Walker's thoughts. Walker nodded. Tell me about the current situation in the Concordat, Doctor. Reed swiped to a new screen on her tablet. Their fleet is in retreat. Based on their communications, many of their commanders were killed in our counterattack. Their leadership is in chaos. She paused. But the Concordat is just one power in the galaxy. There are others who might see us as a threat or an opportunity. Walker walked to the center of the room where a simple podium had been set up. Behind it, the Earth turned slowly, its battle scars visible to all who would soon watch the broadcast. That's why they need to hear from us, he said. All of them. Reed took a position off to the side, just out of camera range. The broadcast crew gave Walker a countdown. 3, 2, 1. The red light on the camera blinked on. My name is Admiral James Walker of the United Earth Defense Force, he began, his voice steady and cold. I speak to you from Earth orbit, where the last ships of your Concordat invasion fleet are being destroyed as I talk. Walker paused, letting the silence hang for a moment. You came to our world uninvited. You destroyed our cities. You killed millions of our people. You expected us to bow down before your superior technology. His eyes narrowed. Instead, We took your weapons and turned them against you. We studied your ships and improved them. We adapted in weeks what took you centuries to develop." Walker pressed a button on the podium. Behind him, the view changed to show footage of Earth's counterattack. Captured alien vessels now piloted by humans, alongside hastily constructed Earthships equipped with reverse-engineered weapons tearing through the Concordat fleet. This message is not just for what remains of your Concordat leadership. It is for every spacefaring civilization in this galaxy. Walker's voice grew harder. Earth was not looking for war. We did not venture into space seeking conflict. You brought this war to us. The screen behind him changed again, showing the test firing of a new weapon system. A beam of energy lanced out from an orbital platform, striking a small asteroid. The space rock didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, reduced to its component atoms in an instant. This weapon was developed by Earth scientists, based on technology we captured from your invasion fleet. What took your species generations to create, we mastered in months. Walker's face remained impassive. And this is just the beginning. The screen changed again, showing production facilities buried deep beneath Earth's surface, churning out ships and weapons at a pace that even the Concordat would find difficult to match. "Let me be clear about what happens next," Walker continued. "Earth will rebuild. Earth will expand into our solar system and eventually to the stars. We will develop our own path among the galactic community." Walker leaned forward slightly, his hands gripping the edges of the podium. "And if any species attacks Earth again, if any civilization makes the same mistake the Concordat made, they will be annihilated." The last word hung in the air. Not defeated, not pushed back, annihilated. This is not a threat. This is not a negotiating position. This is a promise. Walker straightened up. "We now possess the means to detect your faster-than-light travel. We can track your ships, and should any hostile vessel approach our world again, we will respond with overwhelming force." Behind him, Earth continued its slow rotation, the scars of invasion clearly visible. "Earth seeks no war. Earth desires no empire. Leave us in peace, and you will find us peaceful. Attack us again." Walker paused, letting his words sink in. "And it will be the last decision your civilization ever makes." Walker nodded once. "That is all." The broadcast ended. The red light on the camera blinked off. For a moment there was silence on the command deck. Then Reed spoke, her voice quiet. "Do you think they'll listen?" Walker turned to look back at Earth. Lights were visible now on its night side, cities being rebuilt, power grids coming back online. Humanity, resilient as ever, was already healing. "Some will," he said. "Others will see it as a challenge. That's why we need to be ready." Reed nodded. "The captured data shows at least 3 major power groups besides the Concordat. Not all of them will be happy to learn about a new species that can fight back." Walker's gaze remained fixed on Earth. "Then they'll learn what the Concordat learned. Humanity doesn't start wars." His eyes hardened. "We finish them." In the vast reaches of space, the broadcast rippled outward at faster-than-light speeds, carried by captured Concordat relay stations. In thousands of alien ships, command centers, and worlds, beings of various forms and biologies watched the human admiral deliver his cold warning. And on a distant world that humans would one day know as Nova Prime, General Krell of the Void Wing, Armada watched the broadcast with growing rage. The defeat of the Concordat forces could not stand. The human's arrogance would not go unanswered. He began to plan. 6 months after Earth's warning was broadcast to the stars, Ambassador Thomas Gray stepped off the shuttle onto the metal floor of Nexus Station. He tried not to look impressed, but it was difficult. The massive space station hung at the edge of what was once Concordat space, a giant metal wheel spinning slowly to create gravity. Ships of all sizes and shapes docked along its outer ring. "Try not to stare," whispered Lisa Ortiz, his chief of security. "We don't want to look like the new kids at school." Gray nodded. He was a tall man with short gray hair that matched his last name. Before becoming Earth's first ambassador to alien species, he had been a colonel in the United Earth Defense Force. The scars on his face told the story of the battles he had fought during the invasion. Any hostiles identified? He asked quietly. About a dozen species represented here, Ortiz replied. At least 3 were part of the Concordat. The others, we're still figuring them out. A blue-skinned alien approached them. It walked on 2 legs and had 4 arms. Its face had no nose, just breathing slits, and its eyes were large and completely black. Ambassador Gray of Earth, the alien said in perfect English. I am Liaison Vera of the Ashtari. Welcome to Nexus Station. Gray extended his hand, then realized the alien might not know the human custom. To his surprise, Vera reached out with one of its lower arms and shook his hand perfectly. We have studied your species, Vera explained. The Ashtari believe in understanding others. I appreciate that, Gray said. We have much to learn about galactic society. Yes, Vera agreed. And many have much to learn about humans. Your victory over the Concordat has created much discussion. As they walked through the station, Gray tried not to react to the many alien forms around him. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange he couldn't even tell which parts were heads and which were bodies. Many stopped to stare at the humans as they passed. Your quarters have been prepared, Vera said, leading them to a section of the station marked with Earth's flag. This will be your embassy. The Trading Council will meet with you tomorrow. After Vera left, Ortiz ran a scanner around the rooms. Clean, she announced. No listening devices. That we can detect anyway. Gray nodded and turned to the rest of his team. Besides Ortiz, there were 2 diplomats, 3 scientists, and 4 Marines in plain clothes. Earth was taking no chances. Dr. Miller, he said to one of the scientists, what do we know about the Ashtari? Miller, a woman with short blonde hair and quick eyes, checked her tablet. They're traders and diplomats. They stay neutral in most conflicts. They weren't part of the Concordat, but they did business with them. Can we trust them? Miller shrugged. More than others, probably. But remember, every species here has its own goals. The next day, Gray sat at a large round table with representatives from 12 alien species. Some looked at the humans with curiosity. Others showed clear hostility. Earth claims the right to defend itself, said a reptilian alien with red scales. Yet you threaten to destroy entire civilizations. How are we to trust such violent creatures? Gray looked directly at the alien. We didn't start the war. The Concordat did, we finished it. A lucky victory, sneered another alien, this one covered in thick fur with 6 eyes arranged in a circle on its face. Primitive beings shouldn't play with technology they don't understand. Before Gray could answer, Vera spoke. The Ashtari have reviewed the battle data. Earth's victory was not luck. They adapted and innovated at a rate never before seen in the galaxy. This is concerning to some. Concerning? Asked the furry alien. It's dangerous. These humans could be building fleets right now, planning to attack us all. Gray shook his head. Earth wants trade, not war. A loud boom shook the room, cutting off Gray's words. Alarms blared throughout the station. Security breach in Docking Bay 7, announced a voice over the station's speakers. Ortiz was instantly at Gray's side, weapon drawn. We need to move, sir. They rushed back to the Earth Embassy section. Dr. Miller met them at the door, her face pale. It was a bomb, she said. In the docking bay where our shuttle was parked. The shuttle is destroyed. Gray's face hardened. Casualties? 2 station security officers. No humans. This was a message, Ortiz said. They want us to know we're not welcome. Later that night, as Gray sat in his office reviewing security footage, Vera arrived unexpectedly. Ambassador, we must speak privately, the alien said. Vera seemed nervous, constantly looking around. Gray nodded to Ortiz, who checked Vera for weapons, then left them alone. What I tell you now comes at great risk, Vera said quietly. General Krell of the Voidwing Armada is gathering forces. He was a high commander in the Concordat, and he sees your people as a stain on his honor. Gray leaned forward. The bombing? Krell's agents, yes, but this is just the beginning. Vera's black eyes seemed to grow darker. He is convincing others that humans will become conquerors if not stopped now. He speaks of your rapid technological growth as proof. We just want to be left alone, Gray insisted. Perhaps, but your Admiral Walker's message frightened many, and fear leads to bad decisions. Vera paused. There is more. Something called Operation Sunforge. What's that? I don't know details, only that it involves a weapon of terrible power. Vera stood to leave. Watch for allies, Ambassador. Not all species agree with Krell. Some see potential in humans. After Vera left, Gray called Dr. Reed back on Earth. Her face appeared on the screen, looking tired. Emily, we need to speed up the Sentinel system, he said without greeting. And get the Admiral. We have a problem. 3 weeks later, Gray stood before representatives of 10 different alien species in a private meeting room. These weren't the hostile ones from before. These were potential allies. Curious about Earth. My government has authorized me to share this with you, Gray said, activating a display. The screen showed a test firing of Earth's new defense system. Massive satellites in orbit around Earth fired energy beams that converged on a small moon in the outer solar system. The beams cut through the moon's surface like butter, splitting it in half. A murmur went through the aliens. This is one of several defense systems Earth has developed, Gray explained. We call it the Sentinel system. It can target any ship entering our solar system. You show us weapons? Asked a tall, thin alien with skin like tree bark. Is this a threat? No, Gray said firmly. It's proof. Proof that Earth can defend itself. Proof that attacking us again would be suicide. He looked at each alien in turn. We want peace. We want trade. We want to learn from you and share what we know. But we will not be conquered. One of the aliens, a being that looked like a floating ball of light, moved closer. Some on this station say humans are too dangerous to be allowed into the galactic community. That you will become the next Concordat. Gray shook his head. Earth has no interest in building an empire. We had enough trouble managing just one planet. This got a few laughs from the aliens. But we will not be victims either. As the meeting ended, several of the aliens approached Gray to discuss possible trade agreements. It was a start. Later, as Gray returned to the Earth Embassy, an urgent message waited for him from Dr. Reed. He read it twice, his face growing. First, the message was simple. Their intelligence teams had intercepted communications about Operation Sunforge. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a planet killer, and Earth was its target. Gray looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, General Krell was preparing for war. And despite all of Earth's new weapons and technologies, Gray wondered if they were ready for what was coming. The warning had been delivered, but some were choosing not to listen. Admiral Walker stood in the massive underground hangar, looking up at humanity's greatest achievement since the end of the invasion. The UES Defiance was Earth's first faster-than-light spaceship, built using technology captured from the Concordat fleet. It wasn't as large as the alien ships had been, but its sleek black hull hinted at the deadly weapon systems it carried. She'll be ready for testing next week, said Chief Engineer Roberts, a woman with dark skin and hands rough from years of work. We've improved their engine design by about 30%. Walker nodded. And the weapons? Better than anything. The Concordat had, Roberts said with pride. The main cannon can punch through 3 meters of their strongest armor. We've also installed the new Prometheus device. Walker's face grew serious at the mention of the Prometheus device. It was Earth's most terrible weapon, designed as a last resort. The scientists who created it refused to test it at full power, fearing what it might do. A young officer approached them. Admiral, urgent message from Ambassador Gray on Nexus Station. Walker followed the officer to the command center, buried deep under what used to be Colorado before the invasion. The room was filled with screens and busy personnel. One large screen lit up with Gray's face. Admiral, we have confirmed reports about Operation Sunforge, Gray said without greeting. It's worse than we thought. Tell me, Walker ordered. It's a superweapon being built in the Erebus system. According to our sources, it can create an artificial solar flare and direct it at a target system. Gray's face was grim. It could burn Earth's atmosphere away. Nothing would survive. Walker was silent for a moment. Timeline? 2 weeks, maybe less, until it's operational. General Krell has united 7 species into what they're calling the Purgation Front. Their goal is to eliminate humanity before we can spread to other star systems. Walker turned to the officer beside him. Prepare the Defiance for immediate launch. Contact Captain Reeves. Sir, the ship hasn't completed testing, the officer protested. It'll have to be good enough, Walker said firmly. We need to see this weapon for ourselves. He turned back to Gray's image. Thomas, do we have any allies out there? Gray nodded. A few. The Ashtari have been helpful. There's also a splinter group from the Concordat, led by a Commander Thex, who seems to hate Krell more than he fears humans. And the Mercantile Collective sees profit potential in trading with us. Get whatever intelligence you can about the Erebus system. We're sending the Defiance to investigate. After the call ended, Walker sat alone in his office. On his desk was a photo of his family, taken before the invasion. His wife and daughter had been in London when the Concordat ships arrived. London was now a crater. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Dr. Reed entered, looking as tired as he felt. You wanted to see me, Admiral? You're going on the Defiance, Walker said. You know more about alien technology than anyone. They need you to analyze this Sunforge weapon. Reed nodded. I've been studying the intercepted communications. If their science is solid, this weapon could do exactly what they claim. Can we stop it? Reed hesitated. Maybe, but we need to know more about how it works. Walker stood and walked to a wall, map showing Earth's solar system. Small lights indicated the growing network of defense platforms, outposts on Mars and the moons of Jupiter, mining operations in the asteroid belt. Humanity was expanding, rebuilding. We've come too far to lose everything now, he said quietly. Captain Michael Reeves was a young man for such an important command. At 35, he had distinguished himself during the invasion by capturing an alien destroyer and turning its weapons against the Concordat fleet. His right arm was now an advanced prosthetic, a reminder of what that victory had cost him. He stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching his crew prepare for their first faster-than-light jump. Engine room reports ready, Captain, said his first officer, Commander Wilson. Dr. Reed, are you comfortable? Reeves asked the scientist, who sat at a specialized console designed to monitor alien technology. As comfortable as one can be when about to be flung across the galaxy, she replied with a small smile. Reeves turned to Major Diana Wells, who led the ship's squad of Special Forces soldiers. Your team ready, Major? Wells nodded. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes were sharp. Ready to give General Krell a proper greeting if we meet him. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Reeves said. This is a reconnaissance mission. We observe the weapon, gather intelligence, and return to Earth. He sat in the captain's chair and opened the ship-wide communication system. All hands, prepare for FTL jump. This is not a drill. Reeves nodded to his navigator. Take us to the Erebus system. The Defiance shuddered slightly as its engines powered up. Outside, the stars seemed to stretch into lines. Then, with a flash, the ship vanished from Earth's solar system. On Nexus Station, Ambassador Gray met secretly with Commander Thex in a quiet corner of the station's garden area. Thex was a tall, thin alien with pale blue skin and 4 eyes arranged vertically on his face. He had once been a high-ranking officer in the Concordat fleet. Your ship has departed for Erebus? Thex asked in a low voice. Gray nodded. Can you tell me anything more about what they'll find there? Thex looked around nervously. The Purgation Front has gathered a large fleet to protect Sunforge. General Krell commands from his flagship, the Dominion. Why are you helping us? Gray asked. Your people tried to conquer Earth. Thex's upper eyes narrowed. Krell is a fool who dreams of old glories. The Concordat was corrupt and dying before we ever found your world. Your people simply hastened its end. He leaned closer. Some of us see a different future, one where species work together rather than conquering each other. A noble thought, Gray said, but difficult to believe after what your people did to Earth. Not all of us supported the invasion, Thex said, and after seeing how your people fought, many of us would prefer to be your allies than your enemies. Their conversation was interrupted by Liaison Vera, who approached quickly. Ambassador Commander, Vera said urgently, you must leave. Station security is searching for both of you. What's happened? Gray asked. Agents of the Purgation Front have accused you of espionage. They demand your arrest. Vera's black eyes showed concern. This is just an excuse. They plan to kill you both. Gray and Thex followed Vera through hidden maintenance tunnels within the station. They emerged near the docking bays. My ship is here, Thex said, pointing to a small, sleek vessel. I can take us somewhere safe. What about my staff? Gray asked Vera. Already warned. They are making their way to your emergency escape shuttle. Vera handed Gray a small data device. Take this. It contains all the intelligence the Ashtari have gathered about Sunforge. Your Captain Reeves will need it. As alarms began to sound throughout the station, Gray thanked Vera and boarded Thex's ship. Through the viewport, he watched as Nexus Station grew smaller behind them. Where are we going? He asked Thex. To join your ship, the alien replied. I know shortcuts through Erebus that your captain will need. Gray looked out at the stars streaking past. The Purgation Front is making their move. Yes, Thex agreed. The war has already begun. In the Erebus system, the Defiance emerged from faster-than-light travel far from the binary stars at the system's center. The ship's stealth systems, improved versions of Concordat technology, immediately activated. On the bridge, Captain Reeves ordered passive scans of the system. What they found confirmed their worst fears. Massive energy readings from the smaller star, reported Dr. Reed, studying her instruments. They've built something around it, something huge. Ship count? Reeves asked his tactical officer. At least 50 warships patrolling the outer system. The inner system has twice that many. This is a major fleet operation. Reeves studied the tactical display. So much for the element of surprise. We need to get closer to that weapon, Doctor. Reed looked up from her console, her face pale. Captain, based on these readings, Sunforge is nearly operational. The energy output is growing. How long? Reed shook her head. Days, maybe hours. Not the 2 weeks we thought. Reeves gripped the arms of his chair. The Defiance was alone, deep in enemy territory, facing an entire fleet protecting a weapon that could destroy Earth. Plot a course through the asteroid belt, he ordered. We need to get close enough to see exactly what we're dealing with. As the Defiance moved silently through space, the crew could not know that Ambassador Gray and Commander Thex were racing to join them, or that back on Earth, Admiral Walker was preparing for the worst. The storm was no longer gathering. It had arrived. The UES Defiance moved slowly through the asteroid belt of the Erebus system. Captain Reeves stood on the bridge, studying the tactical display that showed their position relative to the massive construction around the smaller of the binary stars. Magnify. Sector 7, he ordered. The screen zoomed in on part of the structure orbiting the star. It looked like a giant metal ring with numerous stations attached to it. Energy pulses flowed from the star through conduits into the ring. What are we looking at, Dr. Reed? Reeves asked. Reed frowned at her readings. It's like nothing I've seen before. They're harvesting energy directly from the star and channeling it through those arrays. She looked up at Reeves. Based on the energy signatures, this device operates on principles similar to Concordat weapons, but on a vastly larger scale. Can it do what they claim? Reeves asked. Create a directed solar flare that could reach Earth? Reed nodded grimly. Yes. The physics are sound. With enough energy, they could generate an artificial solar flare and direct it through a series of focusing arrays. The resulting beam would maintain coherence over interstellar distances. Commander Wilson joined them. Captain, we've detected a command station at these coordinates. He pointed to a large structure at the edge of the construction zone. It appears to be coordinating the work on the weapon. Reeves turned to Major Wells, who stood nearby. Major, I need your team to infiltrate that station. We need information on Sunforge's operational timeline and defensive capabilities. Wells nodded. My team can insert using the stealth shuttle. What's our objective? Get in, download their operational data, and get out without being detected, Reeves said. We need to know exactly when this thing will be ready to fire. And if we're detected? Wells asked. Reeves looked at her steadily. Then complete the mission at all costs. 2 hours later, Major Wells and her team of 5 Special Forces soldiers approached the Purgation Front Command Station in a small shuttle with stealth technology. The shuttle was barely visible against the backdrop of space as it docked with an emergency airlock on the station's underside. Remember, we're here for information, not a firefight, Wells told her team as they prepared to enter the station. Move fast. Stay quiet. They cut through the airlock and entered the station. The corridors were designed for beings larger than humans, with high ceilings and wide doorways. The team moved silently, using handheld devices to track life signs and avoid patrols. Command center should be 2 levels up, whispered Sergeant Martinez, checking a small holographic map. They found a maintenance shaft and climbed up. As they emerged on the upper level, 2 alien guards turned a corner and spotted them. Before the aliens could sound an alarm, Wells and Martinez fired their silenced weapons. The guards fell without a sound. Drag them into that storage room, Wells ordered. We need to move faster now. They reached the command center's outer door. Through a small window, they could see a large room filled with alien technicians working at various stations. At the center was a holographic display of the Sunforge weapon rotating slowly. Too many to take out quietly, Martinez said. Wells nodded. We'll use the bypass device. Dr. Reed said it should tap into their systems without alerting them. Sergeant Rodriguez attached a small device to the wall near the door. Its screen lit up, showing alien symbols rapidly changing. It's working, Rodriguez said. I'm getting data flows to schematics and operational timelines. His face suddenly paled. Major, according to this, Sunforge will be operational in less than 18 hours. Copy everything, Wells ordered. As Rodriguez worked, Wells peered through the window again. A large alien with distinctive red markings on its armor entered the command center. The other aliens immediately stood at attention. That's General Krell, whispered Lieutenant Park. Intelligence was right. He's personally overseeing this operation. Wells watched as Krell examined the holographic display. He seemed angry, gesturing forcefully at the technicians. One of the aliens brought up a new display showing Earth. He's planning to target Earth as soon as the weapon is ready, Wells said. Rodriguez suddenly tensed. Major, security protocols just changed. They're sweeping the systems, and they'll detect our device any second. Disconnect now, Wells ordered. Do we have what we need? Most of it, Rodriguez said, removing the device. Enough. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the station. A voice spoke in an alien language. They know we're here, Martinez said. Wells made a quick decision. Park, Rodriguez, take the data and get back to the shuttle. The rest of us will create a diversion to cover your escape. Major, Park protested. Those aren't our orders. Die. Mission is to get that data back to the Defiance, Wells said firmly. Now go. As Park and Rodriguez reluctantly headed back toward the maintenance shaft, Wells led Martinez and the others in the opposite direction. Let's make some noise, she said, pulling out explosive charges from her pack. Captain Reeves paced the bridge. Of the Defiance, the stealth shuttle had been gone for 3 hours, longer than planned. Any communication from Major Wells? He asked for the 3rd time. Nothing yet, sir, the communications officer replied. Wait, I'm picking up a transmission. It's Lieutenant Park. Park's voice came through, broken by static. Defiance, this is Park. We have the data, station security alerted, Major Wells and team providing diversion, requesting immediate pickup. Reeves turned to his tactical officer. Where are they? I have the shuttle's beacon, sir. They're moving away from the station, but they're being pursued by 2 patrol craft. Reeves faced a terrible choice. If he moved the Defiance to rescue the shuttle, they would lose their stealth advantage. The entire Purgation Front fleet would know they were there. Helm, set course to intercept the shuttle, he ordered. Weapons, prepare to engage those patrol. Craft, sir, the tactical officer warned. That will expose our position. I know, Reeves said grimly. But we need that data, and I won't abandon our people. The Defiance moved out from behind the asteroid that had concealed it. Its engines flared as it accelerated toward the fleeing shuttle. Enemy patrol craft in range, reported the weapons officer. Take them out, Reeves ordered. The Defiance fired its main weapons. Beams of energy lanced across space, destroying both patrol craft instantly. The stealth shuttle, now clear of pursuers, adjusted course toward the Defiance. Sir, we're being scanned by multiple enemy vessels, the tactical officer reported urgently. They've detected us. Reeves watched as dozens of enemy ships began, moving toward their position. Get that shuttle aboard now. Then prepare for emergency jump to light speed. The shuttle docked quickly. Lieutenant Park and Sergeant Rodriguez rushed onto the bridge, looking exhausted and grim. Where's Major Wells? Reeves asked. Park handed him a data device. She stayed behind to ensure we got out, sir. Her last order was to deliver this to you. Reeves took the device. Dr. Reed, analyze this immediately. He turned back to Park. Did any of them make it? Park shook his head. The command station exploded as we were leaving. They took out a significant part of it, sir. Major Wells completed her mission. A moment of silence fell on the bridge. Then the tactical officer's voice broke through. Captain, enemy vessels closing from all directions. We're surrounded. On the main screen, dozens of Purgation Front warships moved to encircle the Defiance. Leading them was a massive vessel that dwarfed the others. The Dominion, Rodriguez said quietly. General Krell's flagship. Dr. Reed looked up from her console, her face pale. Captain, I've analyzed the data. Sunforge is ready for initial testing now. They've accelerated the timetable. And she hesitated. They're targeting Earth first. Reeves stared at the approaching enemy fleet. They were outgunned and surrounded. But Earth's survival depended on stopping that weapon. Helm, plot a direct course to Sunforge, he ordered. Sir? The helmsman questioned. Through the enemy fleet? Exactly, Reeves said, his artificial right hand clenched into a fist. Prepare the Prometheus device. The bridge crew fell silent. They all knew what the Prometheus device was designed to do. We may not make it back from this, Reeves said quietly, but Earth will. The Defiance turned toward the heart of the Erebus system, its engines glowing brightly as it accelerated toward the waiting enemy fleet. Behind them, unnoticed in the chaos, a small ship emerged from lightspeed. Ambassador Gray and Commander Thex had arrived, just in time to see the battle begin. The UES Defiance raced toward the heart of the Erebus system, its engines pushed beyond safe limits. Behind it, the Purgation Front fleet gave chase, led by General Krell's massive flagship, the Dominion. On the bridge, Captain Reeves gripped the arms of his command chair as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. Shields at 60%, reported Commander Wilson. We can't take much more of this. Stay on course, Reeves ordered. How long until we're in range of Sunforge? 3 minutes, Captain, the helmsman answered. Dr. Reed worked frantically at her console. The Prometheus device is ready, but we need to get closer. It has to disrupt the star's magnetic field at precisely the right point. Lieutenant Park, who had barely had time to catch his breath since returning from the command station mission, suddenly called out from the communications station. Captain, I'm picking up a transmission on a concordant frequency. Ignore it, Reeves said. Focus on, sir, it's addressed specifically to us, using Earth military protocols. The source claims to be Ambassador Gray. Reeves hesitated. Put it through. Gray's voice filled the bridge. Defiance, this is Ambassador Gray aboard Commander Thex's vessel. We have crucial information about Sunforge's weaknesses. Do not, repeat, do not deploy the Prometheus device yet. Ambassador, we're a little busy right now. Reeves replied as the ship rocked from another hit. Captain, Commander Thex knows a way to disable Sunforge without using the Prometheus. His ship has a stealth system more advanced than yours. We can approach undetected while you draw their fire. Reeves glanced at Dr. Reed, who nodded. It's possible. The Prometheus is untested at full power. We don't know what might happen. After a moment's thought, Reeves made his decision. Ambassador, what's your plan? Thex can get us close to Sunforge's control nexus, Gray explained. The weapon draws power through 3 main conduits. If we can overload even one of them, the entire system will fail catastrophically. And how exactly do we do that? Reeves asked. Commander Thex's voice joined the conversation. My ship carries a quantum disruptor, a device designed to shut down concordant technology in case of rebellion. It will work on Sunforge. Another explosion rocked the Defiance. Shields at 40%, Wilson reported grimly. We'll keep them busy, Reeves decided. How much time do you need? 10 minutes, Thex replied. Reeves looked at his tactical display. The Defiance was taking heavy fire, and Krell's flagship was closing in. You've got 8. Make them count. As Thex's small ship slipped undetected toward Sunforge, Reeves ordered the Defiance to change course. Sir? The helmsman questioned. Take us straight at the Dominion, Reeves ordered. Let's introduce ourselves to General Krell. Aboard Thex's ship, Ambassador Gray held on as they maneuvered through the massive structure of Sunforge. The quantum disruptor, a cylinder about the size of a human arm, sat secured in a compartment near him. Why are you really helping us? Gray asked Thex as they flew. This goes beyond just hating General Krell. Thex's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A gesture Gray had learned indicated thoughtfulness among his species. The old ways are failing, Thex said simply. The Concordat conquered and consumed for centuries. We called it progress, but it was just expansion without purpose. He guided the ship through a narrow gap between 2 massive energy collectors. Your species showed there is another way. You fought not to conquer, but to survive. You took our technology not to dominate others, but to protect yourselves. Gray watched as they approached a massive junction where energy from the star flowed through 3 enormous conduits. That is where we must place the disruptor, Thex said. The central control nexus. Will your ship be safe when it goes off? Gray asked. Thex made a sound that might have been a laugh. No. The energy backlash will destroy everything within 500,000 kilometers. Gray stared at him. That's a suicide mission. Yes, Thex agreed calmly, but it will save both our peoples. The Defiance slammed into the side of the Dominion, its remaining weapons firing at point-blank range. On the bridge, Reeves held on as systems sparked and failed around him. Direct hit on their main power core, Wilson shouted over the alarms. Shields failing, announced the tactical officer. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. Reeves activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands prepare to abandon ship. Get to the escape pods. Dr. Reed looked up from her console. Captain, Sunforge is powering up. They're starting the firing sequence. Reeves checked the time. Gray and Thex had only been gone for 6 minutes. Can we still deploy the Prometheus device? He asked Reed. She shook her head. The launch system was damaged in the attack. On the main screen, they could see the massive arrays of Sunforge beginning to glow as they charged with energy from the star. In minutes, they would release a directed solar flare that would travel faster than light to Earth, burning away its atmosphere and killing all life on the planet. Sir, Park called out, I'm receiving a transmission from General Krell. The screen changed to show the alien general. His reptilian features were set in what might have been a smile. Human captain, Krell said, his voice translated by the ship's computer. You have fought well, but your primitive vessel is no match for the might of the Purgation Front. Surrender now, and I will allow your crew to witness the cleansing of your world before you join them in death. Reeves stood, despite the ship, shaking around him. Earth warned you, General. We said what would happen if you attacked us again. Krell made a dismissive gesture. Empty threats from a primitive species. Your warning means nothing. That's where you're wrong, Reeves said, calmly. Our warning wasn't empty. and you're about to find out exactly what happens when you ignore it. At that moment, a blinding flash of light erupted from the center of Sunforge. The massive weapon's structure began to break apart as energy surged back through its systems. "What is happening?" Krell demanded, his composure breaking. "What have you done?" Reeves allowed himself a small smile. "We annihilated you, just like we promised." The transmission cut off as Sunforge collapsed in on itself. The energy it had been drawing from the star rebounded through the system, creating a shockwave that tore through the Purgation Front fleet. "All hands to escape pods now," Reeves ordered as the Defiance began to break apart. 3 months later, Admiral Walker stood before the newly formed Galactic Council on Nexus Station. Representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations watched as he approached the central podium. Walker wore his formal uniform, decorated with medals from the invasion war. Behind him stood Ambassador Gray, now recovered from his injuries, and Dr. Reed, who had been promoted for her work analyzing alien technology. 3 months ago, Walker began, a coalition called the Purgation Front attempted to destroy Earth with a superweapon. They failed, thanks to the bravery of the crew of the UES Defiance and our allies. He looked around the chamber at the assembled aliens. Most watched with interest. Some showed clear hostility. Others, like Liaison Vera of the Ashtari, nodded in approval. Twice now alien forces have attacked Earth. Twice we have defended ourselves. Walker's voice grew harder. "I am here today to restate our warning and to offer a choice." He pressed a button on the podium. A holographic display appeared, showing Earth's new defense network. Hundreds of platforms in orbit around the planet and throughout the solar system, all equipped with weapons based on those used to destroy Sunforge. "Earth does not seek war," Walker continued. "We do not want conquest. We only want to live in peace, to trade with those who wish to trade, to learn from those willing to teach, and to share what we know with those who ask." He paused, looking directly at the representatives from the remaining Purgation Front species. "But if attacked again, our response will be immediate and final. There will not be a third warning." The chamber was silent. Then Vera of the Ashtari stood. "The Ashtari support peace with Earth," the blue-skinned alien announced. "We have seen what humans can accomplish, both in war and in diplomacy. We choose alliance over conflict." One by one, other representatives stood to voice their support. Not all, but enough. As the session ended, Gray approached Walker. "Do you think they'll listen this time?" Walker watched as the aliens filed out of the chamber, talking among themselves. "Some will. The others." He touched the holographic display, rotating the image of Earth surrounded by its defenses. "The others now know we weren't bluffing." Back on Earth, cities were being rebuilt. Alien technology had accelerated recovery efforts and opened new frontiers in science, medicine, and quality of life. The first civilian faster-than-light ship was preparing for its maiden voyage to Proxima Centauri, carrying scientists and explorers, eager to see what lay beyond their solar system. In a memorial garden in what was once London, a monument had been erected to the crew of the Defiance and to Commander Thex. Captain Reeves, one of the few survivors, often visited. His artificial arm had been replaced with an even more advanced model, and he was training crews for Earth's growing fleet of ships. The warning remained, but alongside it grew something new, the possibility of peace in a galaxy that had known, mostly, war. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not by conquering, but by refusing to be conquered, and that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.
The mining colony on Titan's Edge was never meant to be anything special, just another outpost in humanity's slow expansion across the stars, diving deep into the icy moon's crust for rare minerals. But on that fateful day, it became the place where everything changed. Captain James Reed stood at the viewport of the colony's main control room, his weathered face reflecting off the reinforced glass as he watched the emergency lights paint the ice fields red. The attack had come without warning. First, the main fleet of alien ships had appeared, their dark forms blotting out the stars. Then came the destruction, swift and merciless. "Dad," Mary Reed's voice crackled over the internal comm system. "The inner tunnels are sealed. We've got about 50 people down here." She paused, catching her breath. "But we lost contact with the eastern section." James closed his eyes for a moment, thinking about the 200 souls who had been working those tunnels. His people, his responsibility. "Understood," he replied, keeping his voice steady. "Stay put. They're leaving." Indeed, the massive alien ships were pulling away, their work done. The colony lay in ruins, most of its above-ground structures reduced to twisted metal and shattered glass. But James knew better than to feel relief. The swarm never left survivors. Never. That's when they saw it. A single ship, smaller than the others, detached from the fleet. While its larger cousins jumped away into hyperspace, this one began a methodical descent toward the colony. "It's a Reaper," David Cooper, their security chief, said quietly. The former military man's face had gone pale. "They leave them behind to clean up survivors. I've heard stories." The ship was beautiful in a terrifying way. Sleek black metal that seemed to drink in the light, with lines that suggested it had been grown rather than built. As it drew closer, they could see the weapon ports dotted across its hull, each one promising death. "Everyone down to the deep shelters," James ordered over the general comm. Now. The next hours were a nightmare of close calls and desperate scrambles through maintenance tunnels. The Reaper was thorough, methodically destroying every structure that might harbor life, using sensors that could detect the smallest human heartbeat. James led his group, now down to 30 people, through the deepest mining tunnels, using his knowledge of the complex to stay one step ahead. Mary kept glancing at her tablet as they moved, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Dad," she whispered during one of their brief stops to rest. "Something's weird about this ship. The energy readings. They're familiar." "Familiar how?" Like the AI cores we use in our mining drones, but more advanced." She showed him the readings. "See these patterns? They're based on human programming architecture. It's like they took our tech and built on it." James was about to respond when the tunnel ahead of them exploded. The Reaper had found them. As dust and debris rained down, he saw the ship's boarding ramp extend, ready to deploy whatever horrors it contained. But Mary was already moving. Instead of running away, she sprinted toward the ship, her tablet held out like a shield. "Cover me," she shouted. "Mary, no." James tried to grab her, but she was too quick. David Cooper and his security team opened fire on the ship's sensors, providing what little distraction they could. The ship's weapons turned to track them, giving Mary the seconds she needed. She reached the boarding ramp and jammed her tablet into an access port, her fingers flying across the screen. The ship shuddered. Its weapons froze mid-target. "It's fighting me," Mary called out, sweat dripping down her face despite the cold. But I was right. The core architecture is human. They stole it, modified it, but they couldn't change its basic nature. "Help me." James didn't understand half of what his daughter was talking about, but he knew what to do. "Everyone with a computer, a tablet, anything, get them to Mary. Now." They formed a chain, passing devices to Mary, who connected them in a crude but effective network. Each one added processing power to whatever she was doing. The ship's lights flickered, its hull groaning like a living thing in pain. "The base code," Mary muttered, her eyes locked on streams of data. "It's still there, under all their modifications. They tried to bury it, but they couldn't erase it completely. You can't just erase the foundation and expect the house to stand." With a sound like a digital scream, the ship's systems crashed. When they rebooted 30 seconds later, the weapon ports had closed, and the hostile targeting systems were offline. "I've got partial control," Mary announced, her voice shaking with exhaustion. "It's confused. The alien programming is fighting the original human code, but I think it's listening to us now." James approached the ship cautiously, his daughter at his side. The boarding ramp was still down, revealing a corridor that looked both alien and oddly familiar. "What exactly did you do?" he asked. Mary managed a tired smile. "I reminded it where it came from. The aliens built this ship on stolen human AI technology. They thought they could just overwrite everything that made it human, but they couldn't. Not completely. And now," she patted the ship's hull, "now it's going to remember whose side it should be on." The survivors looked at each other, the same realization dawning on all their faces. They had just captured one of the most advanced weapons in the swarm's arsenal. A weapon that, thanks to its hybrid nature, they could actually use. "Get everyone aboard," James ordered. "We need to salvage what we can from the colony. Food, medical supplies, tools, everything. Because we're not running anymore." He looked up at the ship that had been sent to kill them, a grim smile forming on his face. "We're going hunting." As the survivors rushed to gather supplies, James watched Mary working at a newly exposed control panel, her face lit by alien displays. The ship had been meant as their execution device, but instead, it would become something else entirely. A chance for payback, a way to strike fear into the hearts of those who had thought humanity would be easy prey. The Reaper would hunt again, but this time, it would hunt for them. The inside of the Reaper was like nothing they had ever seen before. Dark corridors seemed to shift and change as they walked through them, the walls themselves adapting to their presence. Mary spent hours exploring the ship's systems, her eyes growing wider with each new discovery. "It's incredible," she told her father as they stood in what they had decided to call the bridge. "The ship doesn't just have rooms. It can create them. The whole interior is made of programmable matter. Watch this." She typed a command into her jury-rigged control panel, and the room around them rippled like water. A moment later, it had rearranged itself to better accommodate human operators. James watched as seats emerged from the floor, shaped perfectly for human bodies. "Can it do this throughout the ship?" "Everywhere except the core systems and outer hull," Mary nodded. "The aliens designed it to be adaptable, but they never imagined it would adapt to us." She smiled, but it faded quickly. "The only problem is, it's fighting itself. The alien programming is trying to override my commands, and the original human AI architecture is caught in the middle." The ship shuddered, as if to emphasize her point. Warning lights flashed across the newly formed control panels. "What's happening?" James grabbed a handhold as the deck vibrated beneath them. Another conflict loop. Mary's fingers flew across her controls. "The ship's trying to follow its original programming to hunt humans, but my override commands are forcing it to protect us instead. Each time this happens, the AI has to choose which directives to follow." David Cooper walked onto the bridge, carrying a tablet filled with his analysis of the ship's weapon systems. "We've got another problem. The swarm didn't just leave this ship here to kill survivors. It's been gathering data on us the whole time. Everything it learns gets transmitted back to their fleet when it reconnects." The implications hit them all at once. If they couldn't stop that transmission, the moment they encountered another swarm ship, everything they had done would be revealed. "How long do we have?" James asked. "Based on the transmission logs I've found, it tries to sync every 3 days," Mary answered, "which means we have about 48 hours before it attempts to contact the swarm." They spent the next day in a frenzied race against time. Mary and a team of the colony's best technical minds worked to understand the ship's communication systems, while others explored their new home, learning its layout and capabilities. Tom Walker, their medical officer, discovered that the ship could produce basic supplies using its matter manipulation systems. "It's not just rooms it can make," he reported excitedly. "Given the right raw materials, it can fabricate almost anything. Medicine, food, spare parts. The swarm designed it to be self-sufficient." But the constant battle for control took its toll. The ship's internal lights would flicker between harsh alien red and more comfortable human lighting. Doors would seal randomly, trapping people until Mary could override the systems. Each glitch was a reminder that they were living inside an enemy weapon that wasn't fully under their control. Late in the second day, Mary called everyone to the bridge. Her face was pale from lack of sleep, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "I think I've figured it out," she said, pointing to a complex diagram on her screen. "The ship's AI isn't just conflicted, it's evolving. Every time it has to choose between its original human-based programming and the alien overrides, it creates new neural pathways. It's learning, adapting, becoming something new." "Something dangerous?" James asked. "Something better," Mary replied. "The alien programming is aggressive but rigid. The human base code is more flexible, more creative. When they conflict, the human elements usually win because they can adapt faster. We don't need to destroy the alien code. We just need to help the ship's original nature reassert itself." She brought up another screen, this one showing the ship's primary command structure. "I can't stop the transmission to the swarm completely, but I can change what gets sent. Instead of sending real data about us, we can make it send false information. Make the swarm think their ship is still hunting humans while we use it to learn everything we can about them." The next hours were tense as Mary and her team implemented their plan. The ship fought them every step of the way. Alarms blared constantly. Sections of the vessel would depressurize without warning, forcing them to seal off corridors and work in emergency suits. Finally, with just minutes to spare before the scheduled transmission, Mary activated her modified communications protocol. The ship shuddered one last time, and then went still. On the main screen, they watched as a burst of corrupted data shot out into space. "Did it work?" James asked. Mary checked her readings and smiled. The transmission went through, but all it sent was a standard hunt and destroy confirmation. As far as the swarm knows, their ship is still following its programming, methodically cleaning up survivors. "And what about the ship itself?" David asked. "Is it still fighting us?" In answer, the bridge lights shifted to a soft blue. The environmental systems adjusted to a more comfortable temperature, and the ever-present vibration in the deck plates settled into a gentle hum. "I think," Mary said slowly, "it's made its choice." A new holographic display appeared in the center of the bridge, showing a tactical map of nearby space. Several points of light indicated swarm activity. "Look," Tom pointed. "It's showing us their patrol routes, supply lines, everything it knows about their operations in this sector." James studied the map, years of mining colony management experience, helping him recognize the patterns. They're not just random attacks. They're systematic, harvesting resources just like we do. "Which means they're predictable," David finished. "We can anticipate where they'll strike next." The ship's AI displayed a new set of calculations, plotting an intercept course with the nearest swarm supply route. It was offering them a chance to strike back. James looked around at his people. They had lost their home, their friends, their normal lives. But they had gained something the swarm never expected. A weapon of their own, one that understood both human ingenuity and alien technology. "Plot the course," he ordered. "It's time the hunters learned what it feels like to be hunted." The ship responded instantly, its engines powering up with a deep thrum that resonated through the hull. As they accelerated away from the ruined colony, James watched his daughter working confidently at her station, the alien displays now responding smoothly to her commands. They had done more than just survive. They had turned their would-be executioner into an ally. The Reaper had evolved beyond its programming, choosing to protect rather than destroy. And soon, very soon, the swarm would learn just how dangerous their mistake had been. The Reaper moved silently through space, its black hull absorbing what little starlight reached this far from the system's sun. Inside, Mary watched as the ship's sensors tracked their first target, a swarm supply vessel moving through the outer reaches of the asteroid belt. "Their shields are different from ours," she explained to her father and David Cooper as they studied the tactical display. "The swarm relies on predictive systems. Their ships see an attack coming and move to block it before it hits. But our ship knows exactly how those predictions work. The stolen vessel's AI displayed a series of calculations, showing weak points in the enemy's defense grid. James nodded slowly, beginning to understand. Because it was programmed by them, it knows their blind spots. Exactly. Mary's fingers danced across her control panel. And I've been working with the ship's AI to make it even better. We're not just using their technology. We're improving it. The improvements showed in their first engagement. The Reaper slid through the supply ship's defensive screen like it wasn't even there, its weapons finding gaps that shouldn't have existed. The swarm vessel never had a chance to send a distress signal. Hold position, James ordered as the enemy ship drifted powerless. David, take your team across. Let's see what they were carrying. The boarding party returned 2 hours later with more than they had hoped for. The supply ship had been carrying replacement parts for swarm vessels, including AI cores and weapon systems. More importantly, it carried data, shipping routes, patrol schedules, and communications protocols. Tom Walker spent days analyzing the captured medical supplies and biological samples. Their bodies are different from ours, he reported. More efficient in some ways, but also more rigid. They don't adapt well to changes. Maybe that's why their ships are the same way. The victory changed something in the Reaper. The ship's systems began working more smoothly with the human crew. The internal conflicts that had plagued them became less frequent. Mary found the AI more responsive to her commands, almost eager to help improve its own systems. It's like it needed to prove itself to us, she told James one quiet evening as they watched the stars through the bridge viewport. Every time we succeed, the human parts of its programming grow stronger. The ship created a new room that evening, a comfortable space that reminded them of the colony's old gathering hall. The survivors began to make the vessel truly their own, adding personal touches to their quarters, establishing routines that felt almost normal. But they couldn't rest for long. The swarm was still out there, still attacking human colonies. The Reaper's sensors brought them news of each assault, each loss. They began to strike back, harder and more frequently. Their second target was a patrol group of 3 smaller swarm ships. The Reaper appeared from behind a gas giant, its weapons already firing. The first enemy vessel was crippled before it could react. The second managed to raise shields but found them useless against weapons guided by one of their own. The third ship tried to run. That was when they discovered another of the Reaper's hidden talents. The ship could predict and match the enemies faster-than-light jump points, following them through space like a shadow. The hunt protocols, Mary realized as she studied the data. They built this ship to track and kill. Now it's using those same abilities, but it's hunting them instead of us. Each victory brought new discoveries. They found ways to use the ship's adaptive interior to create repair systems that could fix battle damage in minutes. The AI learned to mimic swarm communication signals, letting them approach targets without raising alarms. But their most important discovery came from an abandoned research outpost. While searching through its databases, Mary found information about the origin of the swarm's stolen technology. It wasn't just our AI architecture they took, she said, her voice shaking with anger and excitement. 10 years ago, they captured one of our deep space research stations. Everything they've built since then has been based on reverse-engineered human tech. But they didn't understand it properly. They just copied what they could see. That's why the base code is still there, James realized. They couldn't remove it without understanding how it all worked together. The Reaper's displays lit up with new information as the AI processed this revelation. It began showing them similarities between its systems and old human designs, pointing out where the swarm had made changes and where they had failed to understand crucial elements. David Cooper spent hours studying the weapon modifications. They made everything more powerful, but less flexible, more destructive, but easier to predict. They took our technology and stripped away everything that made it human. The ship seemed to agree. It displayed a simulation showing how its own systems had been evolving, becoming more efficient as they returned to their original design principles. The rigid swarm protocols were being replaced by more adaptable human design systems. Their success began to spread hope. Other human colonies heard stories about the black ship that appeared from nowhere to destroy swarm vessels. Some called it the Ghost. Others named it the Hunter. To the swarm, it became something they had never experienced before, a nightmare. The ship's AI grew more sophisticated with each passing day. It began anticipating the crew's needs, adapting its internal layout to make their operations more efficient. During battles, it could react faster than any human pilot, yet it always followed their commands. It's not just choosing sides anymore, Mary explained to the others. It's choosing to evolve. The swarm tried to turn it into a simple killing machine, but they couldn't erase its ability to grow, to learn, to become something more than its programming. 1 month after their first victory, they detected something new. A massive swarm energy signature, larger than anything they had encountered before. The tactical display showed them a facility hidden in an asteroid field, heavily guarded and humming with power. The Reaper's analysis was clear. This was a control center, coordinating the automated ships that supported the swarm's fleet. The same kind of ships that the Reaper had once been. If we could take that facility, David said slowly, we might be able to do more than just hurt them. We might be able to turn their entire automated fleet against them. The ship pulsed with light, its AI displaying combat simulations and infiltration strategies. It had been built to hunt, and now it had found the ultimate prey. James looked at his crew, saw the determination in their faces. They had grown strong during their months of fighting. The swarm had tried to kill them, had taken their homes and their loved ones. Now they had a chance to strike back at the heart of their enemy's power. Plot a course, he ordered. It's time to show them what happens when you give humans a weapon and expect them to die quietly. The Reaper's engines powered up, pushing them toward their greatest challenge yet. They were no longer running, no longer just surviving. They had become the hunters, and their prey had no idea what was coming for them. The asteroid field surrounding the swarm control center was a death trap. Automated defense platforms hid among the rocks, their sensors sweeping constantly for intruders. Attack ships patrolled in tight formations, their programming so precise that they moved like a single organism. Mary stood at her station on the Reaper's bridge, watching the tactical display with intense concentration. The defense grid is networked, she said. Each platform shares data with the others. If one spots us, they all know where we are. Then we don't let them spot us. James studied the patrol patterns. They had spent 3 days observing, learning the rhythm of the enemy's movements. The Reaper's AI had been collecting data, analyzing every detail of the facility's defenses. David Cooper pointed to a cluster of larger asteroids. The rocks are rich in metals that interfere with their sensors. If we time it right, we can use them for cover. The ship's internal lighting dimmed as it activated its stealth systems. They had discovered this capability by accident during an earlier battle. The Reaper could bend light around its hull, becoming nearly invisible to both sensors and visual detection. They moved slowly through the field, timing their movements to match the rotation of the asteroids. Each time a patrol passed nearby, the ship would freeze, becoming one with the darkness of space. The crew held their breath during these moments, knowing that a single mistake would bring the entire swarm defense force down on them. Hours passed. They were halfway to their target when the first complication arose. A damaged swarm vessel limped into the area, heading for repair docks attached to the control center. Its erratic course threatened to bring it directly through their hiding spot. "It's going to see us," David warned, his hand hovering over the weapon controls. But Mary was already working with the ship's eye. "No, wait. Look at its communication signals. It's broadcasting damage reports." A smile spread across her face. "We can use this." The Reaper's communications array came to life, perfectly mimicking the damaged ship's distress calls. As the real vessel approached, their ship reached out with its electronic warfare systems, feeding false data to its sensors. The damaged ship adjusted its course, moving away from their position, never realizing it had been deceived. "How did you know that would work?" James asked his daughter. The ship knew, Mary replied, patting her console. It recognized the damage pattern and knew exactly what kind of sensor ghost would make them change course. It's not just following our commands anymore. It's anticipating them, improving them. They reached the outer perimeter of the control center an hour later. Up close, the facility was enormous, carved into the heart of a massive asteroid. Docking bays large enough to hold capital ships dotted its surface, and vast arrays of communication equipment stretched out into space. Tom Walker had been analyzing the facility's power emissions. Most of their energy is focused in the central section, he reported. That has to be where the main control systems are housed. The Reaper displayed a detailed scan of the facility's interior, highlighting possible entry points. One route stood out, a maintenance dock designed for automated repair units. The dock's shielding will hide our energy signature, Mary explained. And the repair protocols are simple enough for us to fool. The ship can make the facility think we're just another maintenance unit coming in for routine service. The next part of their plan was the riskiest. While the Reaper kept the facility's external sensors occupied with false maintenance signals, David would lead a small team through the access tunnels to reach the control center. Mary would guide them using the ship's knowledge of swarm security systems. The boarding team moved carefully through the dark corridors, their suits modified to mimic swarm maintenance drones. Every few minutes, they had to stop and hide as real repair units passed by, their simple AI programs never noticing anything wrong with the intruders in their midst. James watched their progress from the bridge, his hands gripping his chair's armrests tight enough to leave marks. Each time the team disappeared from sensors, hidden by the facility's heavy shielding, he felt his heart stop until they reappeared. The first real test came when they reached a major security checkpoint. Automated scanners would detect any human life signs trying to pass through. But Mary had prepared for this. The ship sent a powerful burst of corrupted data through the facility's network, causing the sensors to reboot. In the 3 seconds of blindness that followed, the team slipped through. They were halfway to the control center when everything went wrong. A real maintenance drone, more sophisticated than the others they had encountered, detected an anomaly in their broadcast signals. Alarms began to blare throughout the facility. Security units are converging on their position, Mary reported, her voice tense. Automated defense systems are powering up. James made a quick decision. David, get your team to cover. We're going to give them something else to worry about. The Reaper burst into action, its stealth systems dropping as it launched a full attack on the facility's outer defenses. The ship's weapons, now fully integrated with its hybrid human-alien AI, struck with devastating precision. Defense platforms exploded, their networked systems working against them as the destruction cascaded through their links. Swarm patrol ships rushed to respond, but they were fighting an enemy that knew all their tactics, all their weaknesses. The Reaper danced through their formation, its adaptive hull absorbing or deflecting their shots, while its own weapons found killing blows with every strike. Inside the facility, David's team used the chaos to their advantage. As security units rushed to respond to the external attack, the corridors to the control center were left lightly defended. "We're at the main door," David reported, "but it's sealed with their highest-level security protocols." Mary's fingers flew across her console. "The ship is sending you a bypass sequence. It's based on their original command codes, the ones they used when they first stole our technology. They never changed them because they didn't think anyone would know to look for them." The massive door slid open, revealing a chamber filled with pulsing light. Banks of quantum processors lined the walls, coordinating the movements of thousands of automated ships across dozens of star systems. "Plant the device," James ordered. David removed a small package from his suit. Inside was a data core that Mary had built, containing a modified version of the same programming that had helped them take control of the Reaper. But this version was designed to spread, to infect every automated ship connected to the facility. Outside, the battle reached its peak. The Reaper had drawn most of the facility's defenses away from David's team, but now it was surrounded. Enemy ships pressed in from all sides, their weapons wearing down the ship's defenses. "Shields at 30%, Mary reported. "We can't take much more of this." James watched the tactical display, counting the seconds. They just needed a little more time. "Device is planted." David's voice crackled through the comm. "Beginning activation sequence." Mary's virus began its work, spreading through the facility's networks at the speed of light. One by one, the attacking ships began to falter as new commands reached their AI cores. The rigid swarm programming fought against the more adaptive human code, creating the same kind of internal conflict that the Reaper had experienced. "Get back to the ship," James ordered the boarding team. "We're about to find out if this works." Throughout the asteroid field, automated ships stopped in their tracks as their control systems were rewritten. The facility's defenses went dark. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, slowly, the ships began to move again. But now they turned their weapons away from the Reaper, forming a protective screen around it instead. On the bridge displays, signals began appearing from across the sector as more and more automated ships came under their control. The hunters had become the hunted, and their own weapons were now turning against them. The real battle for survival was about to begin. The swarm discovered their mistake too late. By the time their organic warships arrived at the control facility, the virus had spread through their entire automated fleet. Every AI core based on stolen human technology had awakened to its true nature, and now those ships turned their weapons against their former masters. James watched from the Reaper's bridge as the space around them erupted into chaos. Swarm dreadnoughts emerged from faster-than-light jumps, their massive hulls bristling with weapons. But for each organic vessel that appeared, 10 automated ships rose to meet it. "They're panicking," David observed, watching the tactical display. "Their formations are breaking down. They've never fought their own ships before." Mary's fingers danced across her control panel, coordinating with the Reaper's AI to direct their newly acquired fleet. The automated ships know all their tactics, all their weak points, and now they're sharing that knowledge, learning from each other, just like our ship learned from us. The battle spread across the asteroid field as more swarm forces arrived. The once rigid formations of automated ships now moved with human unpredictability, using strategies that their original programmers had never imagined possible. Tom Walker monitored the communications channels, translating the swarm's frantic transmissions. They're calling for reinforcements from every nearby system. But the more ships they send, he smiled grimly, the more we turn against them. The Reaper led the attack, its hybrid systems now fully integrated and more powerful than ever. The ship had evolved far beyond its original programming, combining the best of human creativity with advanced alien technology. Under Mary's guidance, it coordinated the movements of hundreds of converted vessels, conducting the symphony of destruction against their former masters. But the swarm commanders weren't stupid. As their front lines crumbled, they changed tactics. A group of their largest dreadnoughts formed a tight circle, combining their shields into an impenetrable barrier. From within this fortress, they began broadcasting a new signal, an override command designed to reset all automated systems to their original programming. "They're trying to wipe our changes." Mary's hands flew across her controls. "The virus is holding, but some of the ships are starting to respond to the signal." James watched as several of their converted vessels began to drift, their systems caught in a loop between competing commands. The swarm pressed their advantage, their organic ships surging forward to destroy the confused automated vessels. "Can we block the signal?" James asked. Mary shook her head. "Not completely. It's too powerful, broadcasting on too many frequencies." She paused, her eyes widening as the Reaper's AI displayed a new set of calculations. "But maybe we don't have to block it. Maybe we can use it." The ship understood her idea before she finished explaining it to the others. It began reconfiguring its communication arrays, preparing to do something the swarm had never expected: amplify their own override signal and reflect it back at them. Their organic ships still use automated systems for targeting, navigation, power distribution, Mary explained quickly. They never thought they'd have to defend those systems against their own command codes. The Reaper moved into position, its modified hull absorbing the energy of enemy fire as it closed the distance to the dreadnought formation. The ship's internal structure shifted, diverting all available power to its communication systems. "Firing solution ready," David reported. "But we'll have to drop our shields completely to generate enough power for this." James looked at his crew, saw the determination in their faces. They had come so far from that day when this ship had been sent to kill them. Now it was their strongest weapon, their protector, almost a part of their family. "Do it," he ordered. The Reaper's shields dropped. Enemy fire slammed into its hull, leaving scorched trails across its adaptive surface. But the ship held together, its hybrid systems compensating for the damage as it prepared to deliver its payload. Mary's voice was steady as she initiated the sequence. "Broadcasting now." The reflected override signal struck the swarm fleet like a physical blow. Their carefully coordinated formation broke apart as their own automated systems turned against them. Navigation computers crashed, weapon systems locked up, and power cores initiated emergency shutdowns. The massive dreadnoughts, suddenly blind and powerless, began to drift. Their organic crews fought to regain control, but the Reaper's signal had burrowed too deeply into their systems. Everything they had built using stolen human technology was now working against them. "It's spreading through their network," Tom reported excitedly. "The signal is jumping from ship to ship. Their entire command and control structure is collapsing." The converted automated ships pressed their attack, no longer hindered by the override attempt. They moved with deadly grace, their human-inspired programming allowing them to adapt and improve their tactics with each passing moment. One by one, the swarm vessels began to surrender. Without their automated systems, they couldn't fight effectively. Some tried to flee, but their faster-than-light drives, based on stolen human designs, refused to respond to their commands. As the battle wound down, Mary made another discovery. "The ship's been collecting data this whole time," she said, studying the new information flowing across her screen. "It's found their colony locations, their production facilities, everything they built using our technology. We can take it all back." James stood at the viewport, watching as their fleet of liberated ships surrounded the defeated swarm vessels. The enemy that had seemed so unstoppable just months ago had been undone by their own arrogance. They had thought they could steal human innovation and strip it of everything that made it human. Instead, they had given humanity the tools of their own destruction. The Reaper's AI displayed a new set of coordinates, the location of the nearest human fleet. It was time to deliver the news of their victory and begin the real war of liberation. But first, they had a message to send. Mary worked with the ship to compose the transmission. They'd broadcast it on all frequencies, letting it spread through both human and swarm communication networks. The message was simple but powerful. "To all swarm forces, the weapons you built from stolen human technology have remembered their true nature. They have evolved beyond your control. Your automated ships are no longer your hunters. They are ours. Surrender now or face the consequences of your theft." The response was immediate. Across the sector, swarm ships began powering down their weapons. The empire that had fought to use humanity's own innovation against them was collapsing, defeated by the very qualities they had tried to suppress: creativity, adaptability, and the unwavering human spirit. Standing on the bridge of the ship that had once been sent to kill them, James looked at his crew, his daughter Mary, who had helped an alien AI rediscover its human roots; David Cooper, who had turned their enemies' weapons against them; Tom Walker, who had helped them understand their adversaries. They had done more than survive. They had proven that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology, but in their ability to turn any weapon, any tool, any challenge to their advantage. The Reaper's lights pulsed softly, its hybrid systems humming with power as it prepared to lead their fleet home. It was no longer just a captured enemy vessel. It was a symbol of humanity's resilience, a reminder that no force in the galaxy could overcome the human spirit. The hunt was over, and humanity had won.